Hi everybody. Hi everybody. I'm Bob Wilson. I'm a singer-songwriter in San Antonio, Texas. This is my 176th CD. I have 3,500 original songs. I'm doing educational videos, all kinds of subjects. I try to be as accurate as I can on all the subjects. I try not to make anybody mad. I don't want to be sued on anything, but I do research. Some of them are harder than others. Try to go on the internet and try to find out, the best thing. This here, this is my favorite gunfighter from the Old West, named John Wesley Harlin. They call him the Black Heart of Texas. The reason being was because he didn't steal from anybody, not like Jesse James or the other ones. He didn't rob banks or rob from people. He he was a badass. He feared nothing or no one. Okay, he was born. I tried to find out where he's born. He's born in Texas, a town starts with a B, but I couldn't get it. Branham or something, Texas, in May 26, 1853. Okay, he grew up during the Civil War, of course, and in the rebel side, Confederate. His father was a preacher, I believe a Methodist preacher. He was named after John Wesley, who was a very religious man, and but John Wesley Harlan, I mean, he had no fear of no man. He had guts. He at 15 years old, he was a crack shot. I mean, he could knock off a dime at 100 yards with pistol or a rifle. He tried to join the Civil War at 14 or 15, and his father kept telling him no. Okay. After the one thing about some people say John was a psychopath. Some people say that he was just crazy. Whatever your thing is. Okay. His first murder was an ex-slave, some nice guy, some black guy. He was real nice, and he was wrestling John and another guy. Of course, John and the other guy was smaller, but the black guy won. But John hates to lose anything. He actually waited. This is most of his killings was a gunfight. The majority of them were gunfight, eye to eye. But his first killing is 15 years old, and he actually, waited for that guy and killed him. Well, he claimed that the guy was trying to hit John with a stick and everything, but majority of his murders were that's what I liked about him. He was old school. He believed in standing up, facing their opponent, but he aimed to kill either the heart or the head or both. Okay, that his first murder, like I said, he set it up and he killed that guy. But at 15 years old, his father knew since the Yankees and the Union took over the government and everything in Texas after the war, he would not get a fair trial. So at 15, he left town. At 17, he was arrested. By the time he was 17 years old, he murdered around 17 people already. Men, not women, men. But majority of them, like I say, were gunfights. And he was arrested, and he got along with the prisoners good, and somebody smuggled him a gun, and he was on like a work detail or something, and at that time they freed the slaves, and they had some of the freed slaves to be police officers in Texas, and they had him on a chain gang. That one black police officer was protecting John Wesley Harlin. I mean, that's not good. And he stuck a gun in, and John Wesley killed him, and he got away. John's been arrested a few times. I'm trying to get the story correct. There's so much to it. He was arrested again, uh, and from what I gathered from the documentaries and what I read about it and everything, and he got out and he killed the sheriff and the deputy, both of them. One time he was tired of running. I mean, they kept going up after he killed the black officer. It went to $1,000 for his reward. I mean, that's a lot of money in the 1800s. And there's so many of the story. I'm trying to get it correctly here. He was tired of running. At one time, he turned himself into a friendly sheriff, and they got the reward, and they split it with John, and they gave him a saw to cut out in a horse, so he got away. But he was wounded one time. He hates to lose, and he was playing cards, and the other guy was cheating, so John just started slapping the guy, and the guy pulled out a shotgun and shot John, and John almost died. He had I think it was buckshot. It was buckshot, and it was to his kidneys, but he pulled through it. But the guy that shot him ran, ran from him, of course. Okay, John was actually married twice, if you can believe that. Through all this, he was married. He was married in 1872 to 1892. And he was married again in 1895 to 1918 and until his death in 1895. He actually had 2 daughters and a son, and I don't hear much about that. He the reward in Texas got up to $4,000, which is a lot of money. So the thing that kept him out of jail so much, he had friends and family, the Clements and family. So he just got with his cousin, the Clements, and he started the cattle drive from San Antonio all the way up to Abilene, Kansas, and going through Indian territory. I'm half Cherokee Indian, so Indian territory. One of his favorite or most thing that people remember him by, he was with his cousins, and all of a sudden they heard shots. They went over, John, what happened? 5 Mexican cowboys, John claimed, were stealing from their herd. So he killed all 5 by himself. And it was a talk of the town after that. And then the Indians, and there's nothing good to say about American Indian. My dad's full-blood American Indian. The Indians got screwed all the way around. After 1492, it went downhill for the Indians. But some of the Indians tried to stop the cattle, and was charging 10 cents a head. John Wesley Harlin did not pay it. John Wesley Harlin killed the leader and let the other Indians go free, and as a warning. Okay, they got to Abilene, Kansas, and there was a new sheriff there called Wild Bill Hickok, who was another another straight-laced guy, and you can't have guns. You can't have guns, and so when John Wesley Harlin went in to Abilene, Kansas, and Wild Bill Hiccup says, "Did you hear about the order? There's no guns." Of course, you don't say that to John Wesley Harlin. Okay, people, it varies. Some people say he killed between 27 and 42 men, something like that. Majority of them in gunfights, just straight, gunfights. And I feel bad for all the relatives they died, but most of them I heard were in fair gunfights. So he went up according to the documentary I saw. Wild Bill Hiccup went up to John Wesley Harlin and told him, "Did you hear the thing? And there's no guns in this town." And John had 2 guns then, and he went like that, pull them, and flipped them around and says, "You want to die, scoundrel?" And John and Well, here comes, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe I spoke too soon. Why don't we put your guns back and let's go have a drink? So they had a drink. Actually, John Wesley Harlan admired Wild Bill Hickok. But everything was fine. They were drinking, having a great time. But John was in his hotel room, and the guy in the next room was snoring. John shot through the wall about 5 times to kill the guy. When his cousins woke up, John, you just killed some guy. Hickok's coming, so they had to take off for the night. John went the $4,000 on his head. He was being they had a new company, which is now called the Texas Rangers. They bounty hunters. Everybody was looking for John Wesley Harlin, so he went to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, to cool down. But he made a big mistake. He wrote a letter. He felt homesick and wrote a letter to his family. He put John Swinson, and the Texas Rangers intercepted that, and they arrested him. And he was in Huntsville in the maximum security chain gang for 16 years. He tried to escape the first few years, but he always told some inmate who's a snitch told the thing. So he spent the 16 years, but he was writing his autobiography while he was in there. He was released, I forgot what year, but he was released. And actually, you're not going to believe this. He used that 16 years to become a lawyer. He became a lawyer. He passed the bar. But here's the problem. John Wesley Harlin got out of prison, and most of these people in the United States told their kids, if you're bad, John Wesley Harlin, the boogeyman's gonna get you. The people were scared to death of him. He couldn't get his practice off the ground, So he went back to his old ways, and drinking and gambling and everything. He was also a cattle rustler. I didn't put that part. He was a cattle rustler. There's so much to it. I want to make sure I get everything. I do this one time. I'll be 70 in October. I don't do these videos twice. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. But he also was wrestling cattle and everything. But all right, that's it. Well, to make a long story short, the John's they couldn't catch John at the beginning, so his brother was an attorney, was a lawyer, and they got him and some of his relatives and hung them. And John never talked about that. And John went back to his old ways. He actually got married in 1895. He was 42 years old. He went back to gambling and things, and he was in El Paso, Texas. And he was gambling, and some guy, he was threatening some guy, the way he was. And the deputy sheriff, who was a former outlaw, came up to him, and of course here's a story. He did not face John Wesley Harlin face to face. He stuck up behind him when John was drinking in a lonely bar in El Paso and shot him in the back of the head. So he was a coward in the end. Also, Wild Bill Hickok, who was a famous man, was the same way. He was in a bar, and somebody come up behind him and shot him in the back of the head, which they were both cowards. Well, like I say, in recap, John Wesley Harlin, he was a gunfighter, killed between 27 and 42 men, but most of them were fair fights, what I understand. He was a cattleman. He was a cattle rustler. He was in Huntsville in maximum security for 16 years. He got a law degree. He tried to straighten his life out. He was married twice, and he had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son, which he don't talk about very much. And when he got out of prison, he got married to his second wife. He tried to straighten his life around, but the people were just too afraid of him. And he went back to his old gambling ways and in a lonely bar in I believe somebody said the bar is still there in El Paso, Texas. Some coward who would not face up to John come up from behind and shot him in the back of the head. Poetic justice? I don't know. But he's always my favorite because of the guts he had. He was not afraid of nobody. They said that if they would have let him go into the Civil War at 14 or 15 years old, if they would have let him go into the Civil War, maybe he'd have got all that anger and all that killing out before he just was what he was in his life. But he was what you call an American badass. Bob Wilson Nation, peace out.